You got the charging hub?
Hang on one second.
All right. Make sure keep Zach back. Ron, take this. This is now recording. I'm just gonna give it a little clap. All right.
All synced
You wanna
up.
grab that charging hub? Just so we can have a look filler.
Got it.
Awesome, perfect. Oh, it's really light.
It is really light.
What the hell? I thought it was heavier.
Nope.
Huh. Oh, maybe it was the batteries. Okay. Alrighty. What's going on, everybody? This is Tim from Autel Robotics, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about the future of Autel, some of the new products, accessories, 2019. So stick around. What's up? Welcome back, everybody. My name is Original Dobo. If this is your first time here on my channel, I do drone and tech related content. So if that's at all interesting, definitely go ahead, smash that subscribe button. Tim, thanks so much for taking the time out and talking to me. I know it's impeding on your day here. I only flew 6 hours to
I know, and I should be complaining about that. I mean, what else could be better though to have somebody fly out and then talk about drones?
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. So I'm holding the charging hub in my hand, and it's actually incredibly light. Now this is the same unit we saw at CES, right?
Just about. So we made a couple small changes, just like ergonomics on it a little bit, so that you could clip the batteries in easier, things like that after original testing, but pretty much exactly the same as what we saw.
Now this is only charging one battery at a time, right? It still has that same philosophy where it's...
For the most part.
Okay.
So what it will actually do is when you clip all the batteries in, it will figure out what the charge is on all of them all at the same time, and then it will charge the highest capacity leftover one. So if one's at like 60%.
So it has priority charging.
Yes, until you get to 80%.
Gotcha.
Then it'll go into just balancing on that one and then start charging the next one.
Nice. So, and it's small enough to where you can take it with you if you're traveling, throw it in your bag, just grab the old charger. And now the USB port, what is that for?
Possibly for like future firmware updates. Not a lot to update on a charging hub, but possibility of that.
But if you have multiple batteries, would that potentially allow you to push firmware?
I would love for it to do that.
Maybe
at this time it doesn't do that, but that was definitely some feedback we had. So.
Okay, gotcha. So I didn't come here to talk about a charging hub, but I've came to ask you some questions specifically because it's been 1 year since the official release of the Evo.
Sure.
How are you guys feeling about the progress the Evo's made over the course of the year?
Actually, really, really confident, to be honest. So we are a smaller company and it does take us a little bit longer to do things, but we've tried to just sort of build out a checklist on what we said we could do and what people wanted, and we've just been slowly knocking them out. You know, things like the charging hub, the live deck, the firmware updates. We recently just had one come out with like boat mode on it, so now you can finally hand launch and get off.
I'm really excited about the
stuff
boat
like that.
That was one of my biggest gripes, was that I couldn't hand launch it.
Oh yeah, of course.
And now like that sort of checks off the box there for me as far as that goes.
Sure.
So you're basically building a roadmap to perfect the Evo.
Yeah, and as much as we possibly can, you know, and just slowly knocking out that checklist on what we can do, and taking the user feedback and taking the comments on YouTube and the forums and things like that, and really just trying to do everything for everybody that we possibly can.
And obviously everything's got to be done within, realism.
Yeah,
but you obviously are listening to the Facebook groups.
Oh yeah,
you're listening
all the time. I mean, we have a small team, and I think we're always monitoring just to see what people are saying, positive and negative, because no matter what, it's helpful.
So tell me a little bit about the 3D mapping, or is it 3D mapping? Would we call it?
Just like mapping. So you could do like some 3D mapping with it, but are you talking about like Mission Planner?
Yeah, Mission Planner.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about Mission Planner, how that's going to actually work with Evo, because I know I just recently found out about this, and it's something that a lot of people have asked me is when we're going to see waypoints, when are we going to see mission planning, first party from Autel.
Right. So we've always had the waypoint missions in there, but it was a little clunky, especially if you're trying to use it for like commercial purposes and doing your grid with the correct overlap and things like that. I actually have a copy of it here, and you can go to our website right now.
And we'll go ahead and put this up on the screen so you guys can see.
But there it is right there. So basically you just press on the mission button, and that's going to bring you into your mission sort of planning options where you'll have history of different ones that you've saved. And then you can start to create a new one by clicking that big blue button up in the top left.
And now this will allow you to snap photos for every waypoint,
exactly.
or like how Drone Deploy does?
Right, so I'll just tap there and it's already brought up that grid. And now I can drag the corners around, if I can see it from this angle, and it will change what my overlap is and the size of that grid I can also adjust the height, my speed, and then the coarse overlap.
Wow.
And then what the camera is actually doing. So there's my time lapse, and I could set the different triggers for that, like how many seconds it takes before the next one.
Gotcha.
So that I can take enough photos to map it out. And then I'm going to export those photos into whatever your favorite
stitching program would be.
Exactly. So like your drone deploy or Pix4D, whatever you want.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're sort of leaving the software side of the stitching to the third-party applications?
For now, especially through the app. So like the phone itself doesn't have the processing ability to stitch all those together and create the map. So no matter what, you're going to have to today go to a computer no matter what. And as of right now, that's the best option we can do. We just wanted to give somebody at least the basics of creating a good straight waypoint mission so that they can map correctly.
And you're providing SDKs to obviously like the drone deploy and working with them. Have you worked directly with drone deploy?
We've worked with a few different companies already. Where those are at, honestly, I don't know right now.
Sure.
And as we grow, we create more products, we get bigger, and we're going to have more third-party support like that. And we know everybody wants that. We just can't force it to happen right away.
Yeah,
so we're trying to provide our own solution before those solutions are out.
Makes sense. So waypoints and missions are coming very soon. When can we expect a official firmware update? And I'm not going to hold you to any times, nor will anybody out there, but it's beta soon.
It's beta now.
Beta now.
Yep.
Beta
so
now.
You could actually test it out and fly it right now. iOS through the I'm forgetting what
Test
it's called. Test flight. Thank you. And Android beta. So you can just sign up and then use it now.
Awesome.
And then usually it takes a few weeks for that to get approved, through like the iOS system and the Android system after we make sure that everything is worked out, because we do a lot of testing in-house, but then just like a video game, once you release it to the masses, that's when you start finding bugs, right?
Gotcha.
So we're going through beta right now just to make sure there's nothing else in there that we can improve. Make some small tweaks if we need to, and then it'll be a standard release for everybody.
Gotcha. Okay, so moving over to some more of the direct questions that may not really pertain to anything that you can or can't answer. I don't know. I'm just going to sort of throw it out there, and I don't know what's off limits, so we'll see. But we were at CES. Obviously, there was no drone release this year. There was no talk of new drone, which I like that sort of, because it's there's no promise, and it's just sort of leaves a little bit to the imagination. Sure. What is Autel currently working on? Because one of the biggest questions I get asked, and if I do a video on the EVO, no matter what I do, in the comments section, there's at least 3 or 4, where's the 1-inch?
Of course. So what I can say right now is we are a drone manufacturer.
Okay.
Right. So obviously we're always looking for the next product, the next greatest thing to help support you guys, either commercially or as a consumer, provide you with the next greatest thing, or at least another option to what's already out there, so that you don't always have to choose just one thing. So I can't say exactly what we're working for.
Sure.
But we have changed how we're looking at the industry and reading the comments and reading the feedback, and we're really trying to do something different, even just as like a company as a whole, and like how we look at things, the types of products that we produce, the type of accessories that we produce. So obviously there's a huge focus right now to still support EVO, and we're going to for, I don't even know, like there's no
there's no end date to the support.
But we're also always looking for the next big thing. And the way of thinking on that, you can kind of see it at CES, right? Where we showed off Live Deck, we knew it was coming, we just had to make the final tweaks to it.
Right.
And we knew that the multi-charger...
this is a little different.
I mean, it seems kind of boring, especially there at CES.
But it's honestly, sort of not. I was really hyped about this.
Which is good, which is great. But I mean, at the same time, like, we don't want to overpromise.
Sure.
Right? CES traditionally is something where a lot of companies show off their concepts and ideas. And a lot of times those are taken as like, this will come. Right.
Yeah, matter of facts.
And so we don't want that to happen. We don't want to overpromise and underdeliver.
Gotcha.
We would rather see what's going on and then release what...
And I can
really
respect that. Like, let things take their natural course.
Yep.
So I'm okay with that. It's just that people will begin to wonder. I know there was some prototype sitting there. I mean, this was obviously we're 2 years now.
Right.
So that's the reason why I ask. And people think that you guys are evading that question when it's asked.
So
and I don't
like
think that's
really
the case.
like with the 1-inch sensor on the EVO, it has to make sense. It has to make sense for you as a consumer to purchase it and spend the extra money on it. So if you take a look at our competitors that are on the market right now, and the price point that they're at, and then what the EVO offers at the price point it's at
unmatched right now.
Under $1,000, right? $999, and then there's a lot of great deals out there.
Bundles and deals.
The camera performance and the features that we offer, it doesn't always make sense in that segment to just put on a 1-inch just to put on a 1-inch.
Right.
I mean, a 1-inch sensor isn't even technically it's not a measurement, it's a name.
Right.
Right?
It is.
So when we can get performance out of something less expensive and provide more value, we would rather be in that market and actually get you what you need instead of just selling you a number.
So in talking with, was it the CTO last night? Who's the gentleman here?
Oh yes, Pan's here.
Pan's here.
Yep.
So he's the CTO of Autel. We had dinner with him last night. We were talking, and I sort of asked him. I said, "What was the deal with the delays on the original Evo?" And he basically told me that it didn't meet our requirements. The obstacle avoidance wasn't where it needed to be, and he's like, "We put a delay on it.
Right.
It's ready when it's ready."
I can promise you that our requirements and what we put ourselves through, whether that's creating video content, managing Facebook, or creating new products, is much harder than what any of you guys require of us. And so we're not going to release something until it's ready, which might be frustrating that okay, they said it was going to be out in a month and now it's 2 months later and it's not out yet. But that's because it didn't meet our requirements and it's definitely not going to meet yours.
Right, and if you don't announce anything, nobody has any sort of hard-pressed timelines, which is, like I said, I'm okay with that. I'm realizing it. It took me a little while. It took me a little while to realize and become patient and sort of respect. But hearing him say that last night, and he was just like, if it doesn't meet the requirement, it's just not happening. Yeah. Right now.
We're incredibly hard on ourselves and what we try to provide.
Gotcha.
And if it doesn't live up to what we want and what we expect and what we would want to go fly, like when I go home and I go do a commercial shoot or something like that, if I'm not going to want to fly an Evo, then it's not good enough for you guys.
So moving on with some more questions for you. Some other things people had asked me was, I love the Evo, it's a great drone, but I'm sort of leaning the other way because they don't offer any protection plans for accidental damage. Now I know of most of the brands, you guys are pretty forgiving with repairs.
Yes.
And really go above and beyond just normal and typical expectation. Yeah. But is there any plans to potentially add something for, let's say, maybe partner with Assurion or something to give consumers like that added benefit that, hey, your purchase is protected if a mistake happens?
Of course. I could definitely say that there are serious talks to add different types of services. So we also need to build out a foundation for our business, right? And not just be on one pillar of here's Evo, here's some extra batteries, and then hope that works, because it's not going to.
Got to build an ecosystem.
Exactly. So things like trade-in programs, assurance programs, stuff like that is what we're definitely looking at trying to add.
Nice.
Timeline-wise, I'm not sure, because those things obviously involve quite a bit of paperwork and figuring out the ins and outs. And if this happens and this happens, well, if somebody asks this question, it's a huge thing to untangle to try to figure out.
That's all understandable.
But we hear that and we want it as well. And it's another thing is that if we're not confident in it, that people are going to be happy with it and it's what you guys deserve, then we're not going to provide it yet. So once we find a system that works, then it'll be passed on to you guys.
What's the deal with the orange color of the Evo? Is that just here to stay? Is there maybe something that there's going to be an optional color? I like matte black.
I do too. I mean, matte always looks good on everything. We do love orange. It's unique. Everybody knows
sort of like the trademark.
It is really. I mean, years ago when they were trying to figure out the colors of the X-Star, is that everybody just loved the orange, and then that's what they ended up going with. And the X-Star in orange way oversold the X-Star in white.
Sure. And I had a white X-Star, just throwing that out there.
One of a few people.
One of the few people.
I'm just kidding. But the orange is definitely here to stay. Additional colors, possibly.
Okay.
It's super expensive for us to keep that price point down on the Evo.
Understandable.
To retool and recolor and make a whole bunch of
I'm going to tell I'll pay $250 more just to have a black version. Okay,
so now
just throwing that out there.
Everybody at home now has to pay more for their product because of him.
You can blame me.
But that's what it comes down to. If we had a huge request, or if we had a special customer where I wanted to order a certain amount of drones in a special color, it's something that we can definitely do. But for the average user, it's difficult unless you do it right from the get-go.
Understandable.
But it's not off the books entirely.
No, I think our orange is somewhat iconic for the brand.
Yeah, for us,
something that
totally
people see it and they right away know this is an Autel drone.
Yeah, and most people do like it. There's a few people that hate the orange, but personally, I like it. You can see it, and it looks a little bit more edgy, I think, with the orange and black. It personally, does. So I like it.
I had to put a skin on mine, just saying. But I digress. So we talk a little bit about the color of the drone. There was something else I wanted to ask you, the 10-bit color science.
Yeah, of course.
Now, we were talking a little bit before we got into this. But I want to know more about that. Is it truly a 10-bit?
So realize that I'm not an engineer and I didn't create any camera
fine. I'm not
sensors
gonna
or
hold
anything
you
like
to
that. So, but it does shoot an H.265. It also shoots an H.264. You go into the settings in the bottom right of the app and switch it over. H.265 can have a variable bitrate, also known as HEVC.
Right.
So you can have 8-bit or 10-bit. And using the Sony sensor that we use and the Ambarella H2 image processor, it's a mouthful, then you can definitely get up to 10-bit.
Gotcha.
But you won't see it all the time, especially in the metadata, because the sensor and the image processor are actually choosing what is best for the situation. So if I have an explosion of colors, it'll go up to 10-bit to be able to handle that, and then drop back down to 8-bit so you have a compressed file.
Gotcha.
That's my understanding of H.265. Going past that is definitely getting
So the
out of my realm.
potential to shoot 10-bit is there.
Yes.
But you got to be an H.265.
And anything H.265 is going to do that until you get into like your larger, more expensive mirrorless cameras or a cinema camera where you're locking 10-bit, in your log or raw format. It's not like that.
Gotcha.
So it can do the 10-bit, but only when it sees a need to. So you don't have massive file sizes.
Okay, so it's like a veritable dynamic range, basically, if we had to call it something.
Kind of. I mean, dynamic range is really your difference between the highlights and the lowlights. This is just detail across the board.
So it'll give you more color when it's warranted.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Which is actually, there's a multiplication factor in there on how many billions more colors.
Good to know. It's going to make me shoot in log much more.
I would always recommend shooting log, 265, and 60
Are
frames.
you overexposing your log footage just a little bit?
I am not. It depends on what it is. So, big tip for Evo users, 265, as long as you can handle it. The 4K 60, even if you tend to export in 1080p, the 4K is shrunk down into a smaller screen.
And sharp.
Much higher quality. Log profile, if you know how to color grade or can just drop a LUT, which we have free LUTs on our website. And then, what was the last one?
Are you going to name the LUTs? You need to name those LUTs.
I was thinking about it. I think we'll name them. Maybe we'll get suggestions on this video on what we can name LUTs, though I am kind of afraid of what the internet will say. And then what was the last one? You got me. Oh,
I screwed you
double
up.
your frame rate to 120 if you're shooting in 4K 60, but then drop it a hair. So like,
so give it a little
like
bit
1
of
over like a 100. So you're
blur.
not quite what's called a 180-degree shutter speed, which comes from old cameras. But shoot it like 1 over 100 if you can get the exposure down there. So screw on an ND filter, 1 over 100, 4K 60.
Nice.
And it will look much better.
There you go. So there's some tips for Evo 10-bit, or I'm going to call it variable 10-bit. Variable 10-bit. We just coined that, patent pending.
Yeah, there you go.
But I think that's really all the questions I have. If I had to ask one more thing, why the sudden push all of a sudden now? We're seeing so many other creators getting their hands on this drone now. Why wait till now?
Sure. So that's part of really like our growth plan.
Okay.
So small company, we have a large backing with Autel Technologies, but we act alone. Small company, we can only do so much.
Gotcha.
We are growing. As another point about CES is we were one of the only drone manufacturers there that increased our booth size compared to the previous
massive.
year. So we're on a slower roadmap, but we're growing, we're getting bigger, we're getting into different things. And so you'll see that. So now we have more creators, we have more people using the drone, all that. So it's
more exposure.
It's honestly, it's a very exciting time for us.
Good deal. Well, Tim, thanks so much for taking the time out today. Talking with me, I really appreciate it. Love the new set, the studio, the office space. I'm going to go ahead, walk around, and maybe I'll show you a little bit about the office behind the scenes. Thanks so much, guys. As always, stay original.